After 2 decades of being one of the most incompetent organizations in sports, the Knicks have finally turned their team around over the past few years. They've made the playoffs in 2 of the past 3 seasons, and they're coming off a year where they finished as the 5th seed, got to the second round, and took the Miami Heat to a tough 6 games. They have 2 legit stars that are in their primes in Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, and they have very good role players who are all very young. Thanks to smart front office work by Leon Rose, the Knicks finally have one of the up-and-coming rosters in the NBA. But as good as the Knicks are, this is a team without a championship ceiling unless they make a major addition. The Knicks may have 2 legit stars, but NBA history says you have to have at least a top 5 player to win the title. Just look at the most recent champions. The top players on these teams were Jokic, Steph, Giannis, LeBron, Kawhi, and I could keep going on, but you get the point. You need a top 5 player to win a championship, otherwise you max out as just a contender. The only team I could think of that won a title without a legit superstar was the 04 Pistons led by Chauncey Billups. They're the one exception to this rule. I'm probably going to get some shit in the comments when I say this, but none of the Knicks' young players project to become a superstar. I know Knicks fans love overhyping the players they've drafted, but that's their reality. The most realistic outcome is that most of these players in their young core max out as good role players. This means the Knicks will have to trade for that superstar. The blueprint for the Knicks is the 2019 Toronto Raptors. For years, they can never get over the hump with a team led by DeRozan and Lowry. So they traded DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, a legit superstar, and they won the title that same year. The Knicks are going to need to pull off a blockbuster trade to land a superstar. That's been the plan all along. That's why the Knicks have been stockpiling first round picks over the past several years. So when the opportunity comes to trade for a superstar, they'll be ready. But this front office has shown restraint. The Knicks front office understands that any blockbuster trade will require giving up a lot of assets, but they're not going to agree to a trade where they can't hold on to enough pieces to be championship contenders. This is why they didn't pull the trigger on a Donovan Mitchell trade last summer. This is a lot different from previous regimes. Back in 2011, the Knicks agreed to an enormous trade package for Carmelo Anthony, which made it tough for them to build a contender around him. The Knicks are doing business a lot smarter these days. So, which stars are the Knicks targeting? I think there's 4 the Knicks could potentially trade for in the coming years. So let's analyze each player, discuss the potential cost to get them, and discuss how much they would improve the Knicks. The first player New York could target is Joel Embiid. Embiid is coming off his best statistical season, averaging 33 points per game, which resulted in him winning the MVP award. He's one of the most dominant scorers in the league, and he's also an excellent defender. But I'm going to be honest here. He's got the worst playoff track record out of the 4 players I'm going to mention in this video. Not only has Embiid never been to a conference finals, but his play has consistently dropped off come playoff time. In last season's playoffs, Embiid's scoring dropped from 33 to 24 a game in the playoffs, and he also averaged more turnovers than assists during that run. Now, to be fair to Embiid, he was playing through a knee injury that was supposed to sideline him for 4 to 6 weeks, but injuries have been a problem for him throughout his career. In addition, Embiid's co-stars have consistently not provided him enough help, with James Harden known for being a playoff choker, and don't even get me started on Ben Simmons. But it would be one thing if Embiid dominated all of his playoff series, but fans aren't going to cut you as much slack when you lose while playing bad. In spite of his playoff woes, Embiid is still at worst a top 7 player in the league. And if/when the Sixers make him available, there won't be a shortage of teams calling for Embiid's services. Right now, Philly is imploding with Harden telling the world he'll never play for them again. So it feels like only a matter of time when Embiid hits the trade market. There's only 2 years left on his contract after this season, and at that point, the Sixers can either make him available for trade to get a monster haul to jumpstart their rebuild, or they could stubbornly hold on to him and lose leverage in trade talks when another season goes by. I don't think anyone would be shocked if the Sixers start taking calls for Embiid by next summer. The Knicks have been the top team that's been linked to Joel Embiid. Leon Rose is Embiid's former agent, and he was just at his wedding. It's very likely the Knicks are just waiting for their opportunity to engage in Embiid trade talks. The Knicks have several draft picks and they're deep enough to give the Sixers at least two of their top young guys while still having a solid supporting cast around Embiid and Brunson. They could potentially even create a big three of Embiid, Brunson, and Randle. Would trading for Embiid make the Knicks the favorite for the title? Probably not. But if they can get him for the right price, Embiid certainly gives the Knicks a better chance of going all the way. Another superstar the Knicks have been tied to recently is Giannis. 2 years ago, Giannis to the Knicks would sound ridiculous, but the Bucks haven't done well in the playoffs since the title run, losing in the second round the year after and then losing in the first round in just 5 games this past postseason. After Milwaukee's embarrassing loss to the Heat in the first round, Brian Windhorst reported that the Knicks were monitoring Giannis' status with the team. Giannis recently intensified rumors he could want out by stating that he won't sign an extension with the Bucks unless he gets a title commitment from them. Giannis can enter free agency in the summer of 2025. What happens if the Bucks suffer another early playoff exit this upcoming season? Would the Greek Freak demand a trade to get himself on a team that gives him a better chance at a title? The Bucks may be title contenders next year, but they're also one of the oldest rosters in the NBA, so injuries could spoil another deep playoff run for Milwaukee. If Giannis becomes available, the Knicks will likely be one of the first teams calling. It's insanely rare that a player of Giannis' caliber hits the trade market. Giannis is coming off one of his best years, averaging 31 points, 11 boards, and 5 assists per game, and at the end of the season, he finished third in MVP voting behind Embiid and Jokic. The Bucks will obviously want a monster haul for the Greek Freak's services, but the Knicks can offer them over 4 unprotected first-round picks and several of their young players. As long as the Knicks can pair Jalen Brunson with Giannis and keep solid pieces around them, there's no doubt they'd be one of the top contenders in the league. The next player we'll discuss is Donovan Mitchell. We all know the Knicks wanted Mitchell last summer, but he could become available to the Knicks again. Donovan Mitchell, who's a New York native, wanted to go to the Knicks last year, and after a first-round exit, there's questions over whether he stays in Cleveland long-term. Tim Bontemps of ESPN went as far as to say that he would trade Donovan Mitchell right now because he doubts he signs an extension there. Donovan Mitchell has never been to a conference finals, but that's in spite of his dominance. He's a great playoff performer, averaging 28 points per game in the playoffs over his career. If Donovan Mitchell makes it clear to the Cavs that he's not extending, the Cavs could feel like they have to trade him instead of losing him for nothing. And with Donovan Mitchell's heart being in New York, the Knicks would likely be his top target. Last year, the Jazz got Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, along with 3 unprotected first-round picks and 2 pick swaps for Mitchell. At the time, there was 3 years left on his contract. If Mitchell was to become available again, I would imagine that he would be gettable at a way cheaper price with there being less years left on his contract. In a hypothetical trade, the Knicks should be able to acquire Mitchell while keeping Brunson, Randle, and other core pieces. But would Mitchell catapult the Knicks to contention? I have my doubts. A Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson backcourt would rank amongst the best in the NBA, but that would put 2 poor defenders in the Knicks backcourt. And throughout NBA history, this hasn't been a formula for success. We just saw the Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell experiment in Cleveland fail miserably, and the Damian Lillard CJ McCollum Blazers failed to win a title all those years. It's really tough to defend as a team when you have 2 small guards consistently getting blown by, and you need to defend at a high level to win a championship. So while Donovan Mitchell would improve the Knicks, it's very questionable whether he gives them a championship ceiling. The last player I'm going to mention is Luka Doncic. Luka is another superstar that I think could hit the trade market soon. This past season for the Mavericks was nothing short of a disaster. Coming off a conference finals run, the Mavs were looking to contend in the West, and they couldn't even make the play-in tournament. Losing Jalen Brunson proved to be disastrous for Dallas, and they tried to improve their team at the trade deadline with the pickup of Kyrie Irving, but even after the Kyrie trade, the Mavs were horrible. The The Mavericks had themselves a pretty good offseason in which they picked up solid veterans and players like Grant Williams, Rashawn Holmes, and Seth Curry. So talk of Luka wanting out has quieted for now. But history would suggest that it's only a matter of time before the Mavs implode. The Mavs are relying on Kyrie to help them contend, and since the title run in 2016, Kyrie has been one of the flakiest and injury-prone stars. Considering that Kyrie was a big part of the Cavs, Celtics, and Nets imploding, it should surprise no one if the Kyrie Mavs experiment also results in a disaster. If the Mavs implode next season and Luka wants out, the Knicks need to be one of the top teams that's interested. Luka is easily a top 5 player in the NBA, despite being years away from his prime at just 24 years old. He's also one of the all-time great playoff performers with the second highest playoff scoring average at 32 points per game, right behind MJ. With the Knicks' collection of draft picks and young players, they could offer the Mavs one of the best trade packages for Luka. Ironically, they would be reuniting Luka and Brunson if they traded for him, and if the Knicks acquired Luka, they'd easily be a contender in the East. But anyway, that's going to be the end of the video. The Knicks are definitely headed in the right direction, and with the picks they've acquired over the years, they're putting themselves in position to land a superstar. Would you like to see the Knicks acquire any of the 4-star players mentioned in the video? Is there someone else you want them to get that I didn't mention? Let me know down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like on it and hit that subscribe button for more dope content just like it. Even without a big trade, the Knicks should be a very exciting team this upcoming season. Click this video to learn why the Knicks will shock the NBA.